My first boyfriend was Ken Tenike, and I just want to go over a few things about him, a few odds and ends. The uh, it's like we actually met through the Kingdom Hall in Gardena. It's like because our parents were Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's how we met. He went to Gardena High School. I did not go to Gardena High School, but it's like so I didn't know him through there. Anyway, he a few things. It's like we went to Frank Zappa concerts together. It's like I've mentioned that in another video with him and his friend Doug and Connor. Uh, we one time we went to Knott's Berry Farm, and Knott's Berry Farm. I don't think they have it anymore. It's like they had like a theater there, and they would have a show. This was like a long time ago. And one of the funny shows we ever saw. It's like I remember having a headache, getting a headache or something when I was there, and we went into this theater, and they had a hypnotist show, and it's like I don't remember the hypnotist's name, and uh, it's like it was just it's like they of course they bring people up on the stage, people volunteered. It's like we wouldn't didn't want to do it, but I got to tell you, it was one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. It's like my headache was gone within like 15-20 minutes. It was gone, and because we were laughing so hard we were almost on the floor laughing. It was one of the best shows we'd ever seen. So it's like one of the little memories, neat little memories with Ken. um, he Ken, actually, this is Ascot Racetrack, which is unfortunately long gone. It was over on Vermont, and it was close to in the area where the cemetery is, down in the south area of Gardena. And they put in a housing track or something there years ago. But the interesting thing about it is like just about any guy in school, if they had a car or a motorcycle, they ended up racing at at Ascot, because they had certain like more like amateur nights and stuff, and so it brought an audience in because people would come in to see their relatives, see their the sons and boyfriends or whatever, So even a number of the guys he knew from Gardena High School and stuff, they would. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna race at Ascot, which most people don't even think about doing racing like that anymore. I remember seeing going to Ascot. It's like it brings back good memories going to Ascot and seeing the figure eight races. It's like how somebody didn't slam into each other. Is I don't know, it's some kind of miracle. But he had Ken had he had let's see, I can't remember what car he had at the time, but he did have a motorcycle. So I think he was racing his motorcycle at that time. Um, uh, and let's see, I'll make a note. And then it's like Ken had a friend named Jeff, and I can't think of his last name. He was probably like the only Jewish kid that at Gardena High School, but they were friends. And on Christmas Day, lots of times we would go together with him uh, to a movie, to see a movie. And it's like uh, so that was kind of funny. It's like he was a nice guy. It's like he stayed in touch with him for some years, and then we lost touch. But anyway, it's like so we do that with him, and that was fun. And then a couple times on Christmas we went to his parents' house and had Christmas at his parents too. So um, uh, the I think I told the story about the opal dragon ring, and I actually for, one year got him an opal dragon ring too, and I think I told that story in the past, so I'm gonna skip that. Um, um, we lived in a mobile home for a while. When we were living together, we lived in a mobile home in Gardena, and on in Traveler's Motor Inn. They just very recently changed the name of it for some reason, and um, I actually, because we actually got the place because I got the place because I wanted to save money to buy a house later, actual house later, and we actually ended up buying also the mobile home to the next door to us. I did actually I made payments on it, so I could sell that and flip that or something, and make some money off of it. That didn't actually end up happening, but the guy that owned it his name was Roy. I'm surprised I remember his name at all, but I bought it from him, and then let's see, bought it from it's like and then actually who ended up living there was my a friend, my friend Dee actually lived there, and then my cousin Jimmy actually lived there later on. And it's like, and I didn't charge them rent or anything. I just let them. They just had to pay the space payment, So, um, and so it's like that was a whole block of my life, living there and the adventures there and stuff, because we even had the dogs there and stuff. But that was, it's like I don't remember how many years we lived there, but we had lived there for a number of years, and then at some point it's like I had had enough, and we split. So, and actually, speaking of which, it's like we actually were supposed to get married. We're engaged, and then I called it off. I think I might even still have a wedding invitation. We actually had wedding invitations and everything, and I decided it was just too much for I just couldn't do it. I feel bad that I hurt his feelings and everything. I know it bothered him, but and then a few years later, I got back together with him, and that's when we were living. And then we ended up, we lived in a couple of different places. The first time I moved out of the house, it's like I moved to a little house in Gardena. I think it was like on 149th Street. I have to go by there and find it. 149th or something, 148th maybe, near Western. And and then we lived a couple other places, and then we ended up in the mobile home. But that's a whole story all to itself. Actually, it's like, I'll go over some mobile home stories later. It's like we got to know some of the people in trailer court, and he had a friend there that lived there. He got to know somebody that lived in there was like a motel rooms up the front, and there was a guy that lived there and stuff. He got to know, and unfortunately, I don't remember his name. Okay, and then when he graduated, there were a couple of things. It's like we went to his high school graduation together, and I actually have a picture of his high school, me in a dress. It's like in him and his, cap and gown and stuff, whatever they want to call it. That is like we had he was wearing that, and then I was wearing, like a nice dress and stuff. So we went to that, and oddly, it's like I remember this distinctly. I never got to go to a high school prom. I didn't go when I was going to Washington to high school. I didn't have a date or anything, and I wasn't really allowed to go. And actually, my parents would not allow me to go to his prom. So unfortunately, because he was with me, he missed out on going to his prom altogether. Because I think his parents were okay with going to the prom, but my parents would not. Some insane reason didn't want me to go to the prom, and it's like, how dare I have fun, so anyway, that's a few stories about Ken, and I'll be talking more about him later on.